Okay, guys, we're going to go through this week's stock winners. So, this is the week of October 23rd through October 27th in the year 2023. And in this week's winners, I show the stocks on my fundamentally sound watch list that either might move up or show potential of moving up in the upcoming week. So, when I'm looking at the candlestick charts, I use fundamental analysis to determine what to buy. And then I use technical analysis, candlestick charts, to determine when to buy it, right? So, for those stocks that I'm looking at to buy, I like to look at three stocks first, which represent pretty much the entire market. The S&P 500, the Dow, and the Nasdaq. And so for the S&P 500, we see that it started off the week. Well, actually, we see these two red candles. We see that the S&P 500 moved down this week. And so any other stocks would have to be going against the trend if they're going to move up. We know that there are other options that you can use when it comes to stocks to make money when stocks are moving down. But if you're going bullish, if you want to buy things or hold things moving up, if the S&P 500 or all three of these stocks that I just mentioned are moving down, you're going to be in for a rough couple of weeks. So we see the S&P 500 moving down for the last 2 weeks. And we can look at it on a 12-month. We see the S&P 500 really moved down last year. But this year it's moving up, but it moved up, came back down. So we're like halfway down at this point. Let's look at the Dow. And the same thing with the Dow. Down the last few weeks. And then here we go, 1 week up. And the last 2 weeks are down. And the NASDAQ, well, let's look at a 12-year, is 12 month. We see annually the Dow's been down the last 2 years. And the same thing with the NASDAQ. We saw a positive week, it moved positive for 2 weeks, but the last 2 weeks, it's been going down. But this year it's up, but it moved up a bit and came back halfway down, but it's still positive, even though it was negative last year, but this year it's still positive. So now let's jump into these stocks. And the first one is Ulta Beauty. Ulta Beauty is in the specialty retail store business. They sell cosmetics and so forth. And we notice it's been dropping. But although it was slight, it was very slight. We had a positive week last week. Let's see what happens in the following weeks. But we had one positive week with Ulta Beauty. Looking at the yearly, it's been down so far this year. Came here, went up, and then moved back down. Now, like we know, I don't just believe in buying fundamentally sound stocks. I believe in buying them when they're at their annual low price. And Ulta Beauty is, believe it or not, it's around its annual low price, $379.87, $379.87 a share. But let's see if Yahoo analysts give us a prediction for this stock. Not prediction, estimate. Yahoo analysts estimate that from the current price of $379.87, this stock can move up to $528.62 in the next 12 months. Okay, our next stock is Value Line. Now, Value Line, we see a little hope. We see that it's moved up for 2 weeks in a row. We want to see where it continues to move. If we look at it on an annual chart, we see it actually dropped a bit, came back up for a few years, but this year it's moving down. But we checked it to see if it's near the annual low price. You see that information in your fundamentals. And it's just a question of what it's going to do moving forward. Zebra Technologies. Zebra Technologies, we'd have to watch it a couple of weeks more. We're seeing a very slight green candle, which basically just tells us that in a week where the SPY was moving down, the Dow, NASDAQ, this stock held its ground. It didn't necessarily move up much, but it didn't move down either. And we have a positive candle, but we'd have to watch it a couple of weeks more to be convinced about jumping in and buying this. We see on the annual that it's been moving down the last couple of years, 23 and 22. And in 22, actually it moved up in 21 and in 20 and 21. But in 22, it lost as much ground as it gained in both of those years. So from where this stock is, we just want to watch it and see what it does moving forward. RCI Hospitality, the same thing. We notice is with RCI Hospitality, it started to move up. Stocks move up when more people buy than sell. And they move down when more people sell than buy. Well, it started to move up. but the sellers pushed it right back down. It ended the week positive, but only slightly. But when it came to the next week, the reverse happened. The next week being this week, it pushed down. The sellers pushed it down, but the sellers got exhausted. The buyers came in and pushed it back up, and it ended up closing the week slightly above where it started the week. So this would be an interesting stock to watch for the next week or couple of weeks and see what happens. And if it's moving up in those few weeks, that may give you enough confidence to jump in. We see on the yearly RCI Hospitality, they made money in 20, 21, 22, but they significantly moved back this year. Gave up all the gains from 22, and about half of them or more from 21 so far. And we have MetaFast. MetaFast, once again, we only see a slight green candle. It's partially covered up by this, but only a slight green candle. And we see all along this ride, across and down, green candles, green candles. So it's not much to be that excited about. I would watch it in the next few weeks to see if it's moving up. Also, MetaFast has been around the 52-week low for a while now. So I would watch it to see if it's moving up in the next few weeks before considering jumping in. Having said that, what I would say is this company, if I remember correctly, offers a pretty healthy dividend yield at around 9%. I would double check that, but I believe so. But yeah, it's a positive candle under there. And it moving up another 1 week, maybe 2 weeks, would give us more confidence about jumping into MetaFast. They're currently at $69.58 a share. And if we look at them from the annual perspective, they've lost money as well in 23 and 22. All the previous years they were moving up, but in 21 and 22, even in 20, notice they moved all the way up here, but the sellers pushed them back down and they closed the year here. So they did have a win for that year. They ended the year higher than they started it, but they gave up a lot of their gains. Patreon Corporation in the healthcare industry. If we look at this last candle for Atrion, it's a negative candle. However, notice again, the sellers pushed it all the way down here, and then the buyers came in and pushed it back up. So it ended the week negative, but only slightly. And by the end of the week, the buyers pushed it back up. Would be very interesting to see what happens with this stock in a couple of weeks. Does it go down again coming into this next week? Or does it keep moving up next week, the week after? If so, that may be a good opportunity to jump in. This stock is expensive at $343.20, but that's nothing compared to where it's been riding the last few years. So you can look at the fundamental analysis on it and see where it could possibly go up to in terms of price. Now, if we look at it annually, 22, 23, it's dropped significantly. 21 was an up year for it, but 20 was a down year. And even 19, it moved up, came back down, finished the year positive, but it gave up a lot of ground that it gained, went down in 20. 21, it was up again, 22, 23 down, but is this the turnaround? Okay, guys, so that is our analysis for this week's stocks on our watch list that were winners or showed potential. Okay, I would go over to, if you go down to the description, we have links to all of these stocks so that you can examine the analysis on them and see if they have potential for being added to your watch list. This is Uncle Dwayne checking out. Have a great weekend.